Welcome to Friday. Here we go. This is quick and easy. A lot of you have already discovered this and you know how to use it. So knock it out quick. Today we are going to concentrate on dot velocity X and dot velocity Y. I want to show you, I want to make sure that everybody knows what they do and how to use them. And so it's not a terribly big thing. All right, so I'm already on code.org. I've sent out handouts and it's all posted on Google Classroom, or it will be soon. And so here's what you're going to do. It's going to be 4 short programs that have motion in them that are, it has to be different kind of, you can't have 2 of the same, right? You can have something move to the right, move to the left, move down, move up, move diagonally, but it can't be 2 of the same. All right, so I'm just going to go to the animation tab and just go grab something very quickly. I think, gosh, I don't know. I'll just do my typical, I'll just grab the apple. All right, cool. Doesn't matter that much what it is. And I will name that, and let's go back to code. All right, let's start off the same way we always do. I'm gonna go fast here. This is going to be, and I'll call this apple, and we'll make that look like the apple. Now here's the thing that you do have to think about a little bit. You have to plan out which way is this going to move. Is it going to move to the right? Is it going to move to the left? Is it going to go up, going to go down? Because the starting position becomes important. If I'm going to move this over to the right, I don't want it to be way over on the right at the beginning. So I'm just going to say, I'm going to set this at 0, 200 to begin with. And now and this is really easy stuff, I think. So make a background color. I don't want it to be that dark. Do light green, make a background color. And so for what happens with the velocity blocks is this: if you're in the sprites, it's dot velocity X and dot velocity Y. Well, all right, so obviously velocity X would control, it would control movement on the X-axis, and velocity Y would control movement on the Y-axis, and you just manipulate it with either positive or negative numbers. So if I want this to move to the right, I can bring this over and just say apple velocity X equals, and the bigger number you put in, the faster it's going to go. Don't make it go so fast I can't see it, but I'll just give it a velocity of 10 to begin with here. Really, this is like taking a counter pattern and packaging it all into one command, because what this does is just assign an X-axis velocity in a positive direction to that apple. That's all it is. And then I would just have to draw my sprites, right? If you want to make your programs more complicated than this, you could. But if I come along here now and I run that, the apple just moves to the right. And that's all this has to do. So on this one, I'm going to call it velocity1 and save that name. And this, please don't just leave them untitled. Well, I'll find them, but rename your programs, right? So that's velocity1. And my goodness, no sense in reinventing a bunch of stuff here. So I'm just going to hit remix. I'm going to hit rename and do it this way. My goodness, let's not make it harder than it needs to be. So I'm going to say this will be velocity 2. And really all I want out of this now is it's got to move a different direction. For example, if I wanted to move it to the left instead of the right, well, all right, so I can make it start over on the right-hand side of the screen, and the X velocity would have to be a negative number. If I want it to move left, then that would have to be a negative 10. I would just assign a velocity of negative 10, and it's like the whole idea of subtracting 10 every time through the loop. All right, so let's just run that and make sure it works, right? I'm gonna size that a little bit. Look, my apple started over on the right, and it moved to the left. So that's velocity number 2. All right, that one's working. So I'm going to hit remix, I'm going to hit rename, I'm going to make velocity number 3 real quick, and I'm going to finish this out. I got a couple of things I want to make sure I cover. All right, so velocity 3, and I want to get into the idea of, all right, so what if if you wanted to move up or down, you could use a dot velocity Y instead of a dot velocity X. And if you use a positive number, it drops down. If you use a negative number, it goes up. But what if you want to get diagonal movement going? And that's what I want to take a look at here. So like in this case, I'm going to take my apple and set it over 0 and down 400 at the beginning. And you do have to kind of think through your starting positions. So 0, 400 is going to be in the lower left corner of the screen. And I want to move it diagonally up and to the right. Okay. So what that's going to do is require both of those blocks. You know, back here on the sprites, I'm going to need both because I want it to move to the right, but I also want it to move up. So I'm going to add a dot velocity y. If I want it to move to the right, I would have to have a positive number here, so I'll say like 8. And if I want it to move up, got to think it through, on the y-axis, moving up is a negative kind of thing, so I'm going to say -8 there. And the other thing you can play with is your x and your y numbers don't have to match. If you want kind of a diagonal movement that is more x than y or more y than x, you can certainly do that, right? So this is just a combination of some x-axis movement and some y-axis movement, some velocities. So let's run that. And there it goes. I've got diagonal movement starting in the lower left and moving up to the upper right. Okay, so if you want diagonal movement, you're going to have to use both of those blocks to get it done. And you just have to think through, okay, do I need a positive number? Do I need a negative number to achieve the kind of motion that I want? All right, I'm going to go ahead and finish this out because I've come this far. I'm going to remix this program. I'm going to rename this program, and I'm going to call it velocity number 4. And I will save that name. And again, I think what I'll do is just kind of that opposite diagonal movement. I'll put it over 400 and down 400, which is going to be the bottom right-hand corner of the game screen. And this time I want it to go on the x-axis. I want it to move left, so I'm going to go minus something, right? I'll do -10. And on the y-axis, I want it to move up. That's also a minus kind of motion there. So these are both going to be negative. If I want it to go diagonally up to the left, they're both going to be negative. And I'm not going to make a match this time. It's not, you know, there's not a big difference, but I've got the x is -10 and the y is -8. And so now if I run this program, we get that diagonal upward left motion. There it goes. And the bigger the number, the faster it goes, right? If you assign a velocity that is a large number, it goes very quickly. And this dot velocity x and dot velocity y gets us into, pretty soon we'll start talking about acceleration, simulating acceleration and gravity, and the velocity blocks really help with that. All right, so just getting used to them today. 4 quick programs that make different kinds of motion, up, down, right, left, diagonal motion. Do it, you know, however you want to put it together. There you go. That's it. Fist bump. Go get them.